The 2024 election cycle. A time of supposed national introspection, a weighing of values, a charting of the future. Yet, as Americans gaze at their ballots, a sense of weary familiarity washes over them. The names at the top, two aging figures, their faces etched with the battles of elections past. One, a seasoned politician, his career a tapestry woven from decades in Washington's halls of power. The other, a businessman turned politician, his fiery rhetoric and populist appeals still echoing from the last election cycle. These are the choices presented to the American people. Both candidates are well into their 70s, their age is a constant topic of discussion, a source of both concern and morbid humor. Their physical stamina is questioned, their mental acuity scrutinized. Are these the best and brightest to lead a nation grappling with complex challenges both domestically and on the world stage? The question hangs heavy in the air, unanswered, perhaps unanswerable. Yet beyond the concerns about age and fitness for office lies a deeper unease. It's the nagging sense that this election, like the one before it and the one before that, is trapped in a loop, replaying the same tired arguments, the same partisan divides, the same promises whispered and then forgotten. The candidates, despite their ideological differences, are united by one common thread. They are products of a political system seemingly incapable of producing fresh leadership, new ideas, a genuine vision for the future. The American people, bombarded with campaign ads, drowning in a sea of political punditry, find themselves yearning for something different, something more. They crave authenticity, a connection with their leaders, a sense that their concerns are heard and understood. They long for a leader who will look beyond the next election cycle and towards the long-term well-being of the nation and its people. The 2024 election cycle has, unfortunately, become an unwelcome echo of 2020. The same talking points are recycled, the same accusations hurled like political grenades, the same promises made with varying degrees of sincerity. The candidates, trapped in this cycle of political repetition, seem unable or unwilling to break free and engage in a meaningful dialogue about the very real issues facing the nation. One of the most glaring examples of this repetitive cycle is the constant back and forth on the issue of the previous election's legitimacy. The losing candidate from 2020 continues to make unfounded claims of widespread voter fraud, sowing seeds of doubt about the very foundation of American democracy. These claims, while baseless, have taken root in the minds of many, further deepening the partisan divide and eroding trust in the electoral process. The media, rather than fulfilling its role as a responsible purveyor of information, often exacerbates the situation. The 24-hour news cycle, driven by the insatiable hunger for ratings and clicks, thrives on conflict and controversy. Nuance is sacrificed at the altar of sensationalism, complex issues reduced to sound bites and tweets. The result is a public discourse that is more akin to a shouting match than a reasoned debate. This constant barrage of negativity and division has a profound impact on the American psyche. It breeds cynicism, apathy, and a sense of hopelessness. Many Americans, exhausted by the relentless political circus, simply tune out, choosing to disengage from the political process altogether. This disengagement, however, comes at a cost. It allows the cycle of repetition, of division, of inaction, to continue unabated. While the political class engages in its endless squabbles, the very fabric of American society is fraying at the seams. The nation's infrastructure, once the envy of the world, is crumbling. Roads are riddled with potholes, bridges are in desperate need of repair, and the power grid is vulnerable to disruptions. The American Society of Civil Engineers has given the United States a C grade on its infrastructure report card, a stark reminder of the consequences of years of neglect. Education, the cornerstone of any thriving society, is facing its own set of challenges. Public schools, particularly in underprivileged areas, are chronically underfunded and ill-equipped to adequately prepare students for the demands of the 21st century. The cost of higher education continues to skyrocket, saddling graduates with crippling debt and making the American dream of upward mobility feel increasingly unattainable. Healthcare remains a contentious issue, with millions of Americans lacking access to affordable and quality care. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed the deep-seated inequities in the healthcare system, disproportionately impacting marginalized communities. While other developed nations provide universal healthcare to their citizens, the United States continues to grapple with this fundamental issue, leaving millions vulnerable and financially insecure. Gun violence continues to plague the nation, with mass shootings occurring with alarming regularity. Schools, places of worship, and entertainment venues have become tragic settings for these horrific acts of violence. The debate over gun control remains deeply polarized, with little common ground between those who advocate for stricter gun laws and those who vehemently defend their Second Amendment rights. The United States projects an image of unparalleled strength and prosperity to the world. Its military might is unmatched, its economy is the largest on the planet, and its cultural influence is pervasive. Yet beneath this veneer of power and influence lies a nation grappling with deep-seated domestic challenges. This stark contrast between America's global image and its domestic realities is a paradox that cannot be ignored. While the United States spends more on its military than any other country in the world, its citizens struggle with issues that are often associated with developing nations. Poverty, homelessness, and lack of access to basic necessities are realities for far too many Americans. The gap between the rich and the poor continues to widen, creating a society that is increasingly unequal and unjust. The COVID-19 pandemic further exposed these disparities, revealing the fragility of the social safety net and the deep divisions within American society. While the government provided trillions of dollars in economic relief, much of it went to large corporations, while small businesses and struggling families were left to fend for themselves. The American dream, once a beacon of hope for immigrants and generations of Americans alike, is fading for many. The promise that hard work and determination will lead to a better life is increasingly out of reach for those born into poverty, trapped in a cycle of limited opportunities and systemic disadvantages. This disconnect between the promise of America and the reality experienced by millions is a source of growing frustration and unrest.